What if, by the time you were 32, you had never lost a single battle and ruled an empire stretching from Greece to modern-day Pakistan? This isn't a fantasy. This was the life of Alexander the Great. In 334 BC, Alexander, the young king of Macedonia, did what seemed impossible. But to the west, he became immortalized as the great I'm Rana Asif, and welcome to the deep dive. In the next 8 minutes, we're going to unpack the entire story of this legendary figure. We'll look at his incredible military campaigns, the army that followed him to the edge of the world, and the mysteries surrounding his sudden death. This is the complete story of Alexander the Great. To understand Alexander, you have to understand the world he was born into. In 480 BC, they united to fight off a massive Persian invasion. They won incredible victories at Salamis and Plataea, but it came at a cost. The following decades were filled with internal conflict, most famously the Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta. To the north, in the rugged kingdom of Macedonia, a new power was rising. His secret weapon was the sarissa, an 18-foot pike that gave his infantry, the phalanx, an unstoppable reach. In 338 BC, at the Battle of Catania, Philip crushed the combined forces of Thebes and Athens, uniting all of Greece under his rule. His next target was Persia itself. But on the eve of his great war, Philip was assassinated, a victim of court intrigue. The throne, and the dream of conquering Persia, fell to his 20-year-old son, Alexander. Young, brilliant, and tutored by the philosopher Aristotle, Alexander was already a battle-hardened commander. After brutally securing his throne by crushing rebellions and famously destroying the city of Thebes, he set his sights east. In the spring of 334 BC, he led a Greek army of about 40,000 men across the Hellespont into Asia Minor. His army was a finely tuned machine. At its core were the Macedonian phalangites, with their sarissas on the flanks, the elite Hephaestus, and the deadly Campanian cavalry, led by Alexander himself. The first test came at the Granicus River. The Persian satraps, or governors, decided to stop him there. They lined the far bank with cavalry, a wall of horsemen. Ignoring advice to wait, Alexander launched an immediate assault. It was chaotic and brutal. The sources tell us Alexander was in the thick of it, his plume a beacon for the enemy. At one point, he was fighting for his life, moments from death. A Persian noble, Spithridates, raised his sword to strike the king from behind. But at the last second, a Macedonian named Cletus the Black sliced the Persian's arm clean off, saving Alexander's life. The speed and ferocity of the attack broke the Persian line. It was a stunning victory, and the gateway to Asia was open. But this was just the beginning. The Persian king, Darius III, was now forced to respond personally. He gathered a massive army, some say up to 100,000 strong, and marched to meet Alexander. They met at Issus in 333 BC. Darius had chosen a narrow coastal plain, hoping to trap Alexander, but this narrow front actually neutralized his massive numerical advantage. As Alexander charged with his right wing, the center of his army, the phalanx, was pushed back by Darius's Greek mercenaries. Seeing the danger, Alexander wheeled his companion cavalry and charged directly at the great king himself. He fled the battlefield in his chariot, abandoning his own men and, shockingly, his wife, mother, and children. They were captured by Alexander, who, showing a different side to his character, treated them with great respect. 2 years later, in 331 BC, came the final showdown at Gaugamela. Deiotius had learned his lesson. He chose a wide, flat plain where his numbers and his scythed chariots could be used effectively. But Alexander was a master of deception. He marched his line to the right, luring the Persians to follow and leaving a gap in their center. When the moment was right, he unleashed his companions in a wedge formation straight into that gap. It was a direct assault on Darius. The fighting was ferocious. On Alexander's left, his general Parmenion was nearly overwhelmed. But once again, Darius lost his nerve and fled. The Persian army collapsed. Alexander was now the undisputed master of the Persian Empire. After entering Babylon and Susa in triumph, Alexander reached Persepolis, the ceremonial heart of Persia. There, he ordered the great palace to be burned. It was a powerful symbol of vengeance for the Persian burning of Athens over a century before. But Alexander's goal wasn't just revenge. He saw himself as the new king of kings. He chased the fleeing Darius, only to find the Persian king had been murdered by his own governor. As Alexander pushed further east, into what is now Afghanistan and Tajikistan, he was determined to find Bessus and secure his new frontier. He fought a brutal guerrilla war against local tribes, founding cities like Alexandria Shatay, the furthest on the edge of his empire. But this endless campaigning took its toll. His men were exhausted, thousands of miles from home, and Alexander was changing. He began adopting Persian dress and customs, which angered his Macedonian veteran. In a drunken rage at Samarkand, he killed his old friend Cletus, the very man who had saved his life at the Granicus. He was consumed by grief, but the damage was done. To solidify his rule, he married Roxana, a Bactrian princess. It was a love match, but also a smart political move. In 327 BC, Alexander crossed the Indus River in Pakistan. He faced his toughest fight yet against King Porus at the Hydaspes River. Porus used war elephants, massive beasts that terrified the Greek horses and men. Though Alexander won, it was his costliest battle. He wanted to push further east, to the Ganges, to the end of the world, but his army had had enough. After 8 years of marching, they mutinied on the banks of the Hyphasis River. For the first time, Alexander was forced to turn back. The return was brutal. He led part of his army through the Gedrosian desert, where thousands died from heat and hunger. Back in Persia, he tried to unite his Macedonian and Persian subjects, even holding a mass marriage ceremony at Susa. But in 323 BC, in Babylon, he was just 32 years old. The cause of his death remains a mystery. Disease, poison, we may never know. He left no heir, and his vast empire immediately crumbled as his generals, the Diadochi, tore it apart, fighting over the pieces. His son and wife were murdered. His very tomb is lost to history. So, was he a god, a genius, or a tyrant? Perhaps he was all three. In just over a decade, he toppled an empire, marched further than anyone before him, and spread Greek culture across the ancient world, ushering in the Hellenistic Age. His life was short, but its impact was so massive that it's still felt today. Thanks for watching the deep dive. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and hit the bell for more history deep dives. I'm Rana Asif, and I'll see you in the next one.